And we welcome you into the Pioneer Basketball Show with Pioneer coach Devan Carter. The Pioneers over the holidays playing some non-conference contests before resuming their conference play in Hickory, North Carolina just this past Saturday. Joined by Pioneer coach Devan Carter's Pioneers unbeaten in non-conference action this year, but definitely tested when we traveled to Tigerville, South Carolina. I guess that's where we'll start because North Greenville University, always a tough place to play. But I don't want to take you to the Wayback Machine, but we'll go there a couple of years ago, and it wasn't a very good sign for the Pioneer basketball team. And it's not that you played bad. It's just it's a tough place to go play. They seem to play very inspired basketball there, and you got that challenge very early in the contest. Came from something like 10-3 or 10-2 down in that contest to come back and win.
Yeah, I think it's the first time we won there in 12 years or something like that. Tough place to play. Looks like a very historic gym. You know, your locker room is right beneath you and everything else like that. Crowd's right on you. And they play inspired basketball there. Very tough place to play. You know, and not to take anything away from them, they're a very good ball club. I said it, I think, in my postgame afterwards. I know the trendy thing to do for athletic departments is open up a national search. But they're competing at a level that I've never seen them compete at. Just Sunday, they beat Furman at Furman. You know, who's pretty, having a good year in the SoCon. Went there and beat them. Donahue had like 20-some points. Very tough team, and to go on the road and get that one really showed me a lot of grit and toughness with our team, because a tough place to play. You're dealing with one of the leading scorers in the country, and a team that competes, and to get one on the road was good for us.
Pioneers get that victory in Tigerville, South Carolina, and then they get a chance to come home for a couple of non-conference showdowns, and Bluefield State and Livingstone. We'll start with the Bluefield State contest. Last year you forced 51 turnovers in that contest. Little did we know it would be a little bit more historic this time around, but you go off the road where you're not shooting it very well, and I know that you have to get off to a very good start, and your defense always predicates your offense, and you're able to do that early.
Yeah, defensively I felt like we were locked in on that scout. The thing with Bluefield is that their coach has done a great job of getting more talent into their program. He walked out, his team walked out, and I was like, sheesh, like they're bigger than us by a lot. And his wings are very tall, and obviously they're still building that program. But I felt like it was important for us to lock in on key personnel. They had a couple of kids that really scored the ball well, and we had to focus in on them. The thing I was really impressed with in that ball game, though, was our ability to get to the basketball and cut off driving lanes and stuff like that, and force them to take a lot of outside shots. And we were able to get those long rebounds and push the basketball and get in transition. Rebounds
was key for you guys, and also Callie Patterson. You're sitting here watching some of the highlights for this contest. Your team obviously gets out in transition, but when Callie is knocking down behind the three-point line, North Greenville, she was huge. Yeah. Now she comes into Bluefield State and is just feeling very good. Plus, then you get help from others. Jazz Williams, Marta Rodriguez, who sets a single-game record with 11 steals in a contest against this team. So you're getting that production because you've got 9 players right now. Well, you're a battle of the wounded, and you're getting that production from someone from Rodriguez who's not afraid just to pull up and take the three either.
Right. And, one of the things that we try to encourage our kids to do, we tell them, like, if you put the time in, if you put the work in the gym, then all of a sudden your lights start to change when you get into the game. And some kids have a green light. Some kids have we have a neon light. Some kids got a yellow and a red light. And but Callie Patterson is one of those kids that got the green light, and she's constantly working on her game and getting up shots. And yesterday after practice, we had a light one yesterday. She comes back after lunch to get up shots, and it's paying off for her. She's shooting all-time career high. But that's the void that we, need from her. We need her to knock down shots, and she knows that's her role, and she's thriving in it.
It is a Bluefield State team that comes down, and you talked about turning them over, the steals, just the defense. How hungry were you right from the beginning of that contest to come up with the amount, 36 steals in the contest? So how hungry were you as a team?
Yeah, I think that the girls, the press is something like blood in the water, like you can kind of feel when a team's getting rattled by it, and usually when that happens, our kids, step it up another notch. We try to go through every practice, and we chart deflections and all that other stuff, and I knew leading up to that game that, especially coming back from break, our practice has been pretty good. We've had to switch some things up because of our numbers, not being able to practice with 10. So we've had to put a lot of things into 4-on-4 situations and a lot of activity. Kids are flying around the gym. The thing that really concerned me most was their conditioning in that match. And they, conditioning seemed not what it normally is, but
right.
just enough. The activity was great, and really proud of their effort with that. A lot of deflections, and that led to steals.
Pioneers get the big win against Bluefield State. Then no rest for the weary. Then you turn right around and you play the Blue Bears of Livingstone College, who come in from Salisbury, North Carolina. You play them back-to-back. It's not how you necessarily had set that up. I think Bluefield State was supposed to be a bit earlier in the year, but it probably worked out, and we'll talk about why. We take a look at some of the highlights from Livingstone. A polished team, more than Bluefield State, so I think it gives you that preparation with a big-time score as well for this basketball team. And not necessarily got out to the great start, but you definitely got off to a very good start. Again, your defense predicates your offense.
Yeah, had one of the leading scorers in the country on that team. A team that beat a really good Belmont Abbey team who's first in the league in Conference Carolinas. A team that plays extremely hard and scrappy, kind of like ourselves. It was one of those games where it really prepared us for our next game. And what I mean by that is you knew playing Livingstone that they were going to play you zone the entire game. And you knew coming into it you were going to have to make shots to be successful. And you knew that you were going to have to defend an elite score, to be successful, much like LR. Mm-hmm. And so, going into that ball game, the thing that I was proud of, we got out to the early start, was able to build a lead. Felt like we were imposing our will defensively and started to make conditioning a factor. And then, I felt like we hit a lull where we weren't as focused, weren't as sharp, and we had to deal with a lot of adversity in that ball game. And so that's one of those things that you get a win, but at the same time, you get to yell a little bit afterwards because we lost focus there a little bit, and they almost made us pay.
Go up 20 early. Again, the game was kind of nip and tuck through about the first 5 minutes of the contest. Then you start building that lead, get up 20, have that 20-point halftime lead. All of a sudden, it's a 4-point game as you get into the fourth quarter. You talk about losing focus, but how much of it is it Livingstone's will to try to come back and win? How much was it their fight?
Oh, yeah, it was a lot of their fight. I mean, they were getting to every 50-50 ball. They were on the floor clapping. They were through spurts, they just played harder than we did. And that's something that, I told our kids should never be the case. They battled. We did some uncharacteristic things. We were allowing middle drives and penetration and fouling and communication, lacked for a bit. The thing that was telling to me in that ball game, though, was the free throw line because I think that was just a lack of focus. You start, I think we were like 5 of 16 or something like that, and then to finish the game 15 of 16 from the line, lets you know kind of where the focus was. And so we have to do a better job of that because at the end of the day, you're going to have to knock down shots, you're going to have to finish around the rim, and you're going to have to make free throws. Those are the three things that, we kind of look at. And to close the game 15 of 16 was encouraging, but to start it the way we did from the line was also, something that we had to talk about and pinpoint.
Go up 20, lose that 20-point lead, and then eventually win by 20 in that contest. Again, getting good help from the intangibles. You get Marta Rodriguez with the big three-pointer. Jazz Williams had big blocks through the games. But then, of course, you're going to have your veterans, I guess you could say, Kendrea Duke and Mia Long, who came through with extremely big plays as well. So one player we haven't really touched on, we're going to do that as we travel then to Hickory, North Carolina. Pick up 3 non-conference wins, so you're feeling really good about yourself going into Hickory. Not necessarily an easy place to play either as you go on the road in the South Atlantic Conference. And you needed some help. You needed some encouragement. Callie Patterson had kind of been leading this team, Mia Long and Kendrea. Then all of a sudden, Elizabeth Cupidon comes along and really starts off the game. Now, LR starts off with that 2-3 zone, impressive zone, way they play it.
Yeah.
But you started hitting shots very early, and that contest really set the tone.
Absolutely. And you know what? As going into that game, I felt like we were prepared because of the Livingstone game. Going against that zone, they do a great job of shifting their zone. They do a great job of communicating in the zone. And Elizabeth Cupidon stepped up and knocked down some shots early. And whenever you go to that gym, I joke with people all the time. I said, I've never seen a team shoot well there. Never seen a team make shots there. Never seen a team go there and shoot the ball impressively. And so for us to get those early, I think was big for our confidence. I think that it set the tone for us moving forward. And our kids were, did a great job of passing the basketball. I tell them all the time, make today our best passing game of the season. I felt like LR was that. They created a lot of open shots for their teammates, but the thing that was more impressive was a lot of pocket passes. They're catching the ball ready to shoot, where they can step in and knock it down for a rhythm jump shot. So was really impressed with that. Ulisma obviously knocking down too early, and then also setting the tone for us defensively. Got a lot of deflections early. She had like 7 or 8 deflections in that first half. And that really got our juices going on the defensive end.
32-21 was the score at the half for the Pioneers, leading the LR Bears. And a lot of that, again, we're talking about a defensive team that forces 20 turnovers per game. That's what the minimum has been. The steal numbers are up for the Pioneers, and the three-point percentage defense is way down. You could sit here and say, well, a lot of teams just don't shoot well because you have this full court press and they finish around the rim a lot because you press the entire time. That's not the case. This is a team that's set up in a good three-point shooting team, and you hold them well below their season average to 13%. I think they hit 1 in the contest for the entire game, 1 of 13, 7%. So they're taking three-pointers in the game. My question was in the game, how would you handle Tanita along with Sudrith? Sudrith came in, did what she did, but you really shut down Tanita in the contest.
Yeah, I was joking with one of our assistants. Maddie Sudrith, I think, is one of the leading scorers in our league, but she's also one of the leaders in the country in field goal percentage, and she takes a lot of outside shots. Very skilled player, knocks down a ton of tough shots. Ulisma did a great job on her of contesting everything, but Sudrith is just a great player. And we knew they had 2 really good players, and you can't let 2 really good players beat you. You got to take one of them away, and we really focused on that. We knew that they also shot the ball well as well, and we knew they were capable of huge point outbursts. 80-some points against Carson Newman. They've had multiple games where they put up a lot of points. One of the keys in our game, must have been in our locker room, was defending the three-point line. And, I think that's been one of the things we've done well all year. We're second in the nation in defending the three-point line. Last year we were like 160-something, and right now we're second. You take away threes, you try to get people to take contested twos, and then you try to get the rebound and get into your stuff. So I was telling our team, I've never seen a team execute defensively the way we did Saturday. They were locked into the scout. They were locked into personnel. Their communication was off the charts. And we tried to make everything as difficult as possible.
A Pioneer team that, again, you have to get some offense as well in a place you've never had offense. I went back and was looking through at one point during the game thinking it's going to be the largest victory ever in Hickory. And for a long time there it was. I think late they were able to put some points together and string some things. You built that 25-point lead, which would have been the biggest victory there ever. You finish with a 66-45 win. You get offense. You got out on top big time. Hit that little bit of a low offensively, because they are a good team. They do play some defense. But Jazz Williams stepped up for you, and she was 4 of 11 for her entire career from three-point territory. She was 4 of 9 in that game, and she probably shouldn't have taken the 9th one.
Exactly
but she did go 4 of 9, and she's been telling you, look, I'm a shooter. You can believe what you want to believe, but she did come through in a big way in that contest.
No doubt. And, one of the things that, as a coach, you go back and look at is you always think, well, are we putting these kids in a situation to be successful? And one of the things, because of the injuries, we've had to change the way we practice and everything else like that. Our kids have gotten a lot of skill work in. Jazz Williams, when you watched her in high school, she showed a little ability to knock down that top of the key shot. But she stepped into, some shots, and I tell our kids all the time that passiveness gets you subbed out immediately. And when you're not ready to shoot the basketball and we create an open shot for a teammate and you catch it and you're not ready to shoot, if you shot fake that and put it on the deck and pass up a wide open shot, you're immediately getting subbed. And she stepped into those shots very confident. knocked them down, and we needed them.
Yeah.
You know, we're going through a spot where we went through a little lull, and she knocks down, I think her and Callie knocked down back-to-back threes, gave us that cushion. But what it also does is it allows you to get into your press and allows you to get matched, and it allows you to take a 6-0 run and turn it into a 10-0 run. And we had multiple 10-0 runs in that game, and they were beneficial for us in the long haul because you're going against a good team. Any cheap buckets that you can get are beneficial for you.
Fouls were also an issue for this Pioneer team, especially in that game. Kendrea Duke nearly 23 minutes, Jazz Williams nearly 18 minutes. So there's your fives, getting the big minutes you need. And Duke finishes with 12 and 9. Jazz Williams has a career best 14 points, and Yulise McCupidon goes 6 of 10 from the floor. She plays nearly 37 minutes in the contest. You get 3 players over 35 minutes. And with 9/10 players that you had, you needed those big minutes from those groups.
For sure. You know, with the limitations we have right now, you know, one of the big things for us is not to play with our hands. Get your hands off. You know, no cheap fouls. My favorite coach, well, hate him or love him, I think he's the best in the game. Rick Pitino, he always says fouling negates hustle. And one of the things that, you know, we get in trouble with, and we did a lot last year especially, is we fouled. We just fouled and fouled and fouled. Now our fouls are a little bit different. You know, now, you know, they're not in the press as much, you know, and now we're having to protect some kids as well to keep them on the floor. So one of the things that we really focus on is the fouling issue, and sometimes, depending on how the game's called, you know, we play a physical style of basketball, so sometimes you're going to get those cheap ones. That's okay as long as it's an effort foul. So, you know, obviously I think now we're building a little bit more depth now, even more so than before the year, because, you know, going into a game, our kids know they're going to play. They know they're going to play. Just by the numbers and our style of play, they know they're going to have a chance to come into the ball game. And I think this helping a lot of kids focus, embrace their role, and understand that with playing comes coaching. With playing comes responsibility, and they're starting to buy into that responsibility.
It's a Pioneer team right now that's riding a 5-game winning streak, one of the hottest teams in the South Atlantic Conference, and they get a 3-game homestand. We'll talk about that when we return with more of our Pioneer Basketball Show. That's coming up here on the Pioneer Sports Network.
The first date. Only one chance to make that first impression. Don't worry, this might be new for you, but Ingles has been there before. From flowers to the freshest ingredients, we have everything you need to put your best foot forward.
I'm so sorry.
Remember, you can't get to happily ever after without once upon a time.
Wow, funny running into you.
Ingles, all the ingredients for family.
We welcome you back into the Pioneer Basketball Show. The Tusculum Pioneers open a 3-game homestand now, all in South Atlantic Conference action. Part of our non-conference games done, except for one more in the month of February against Hiawassee. We'll talk about that when that comes up. But Mars Hill, Coker, and Carson Newman. And if you look at the standings, improved Mars Hill team, a Coker team, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get hustle and determination. And then Carson Newman, one of the best teams in the country, not only in our conference, not have the record right now, but they're playing without Wester for some time. But here's a 3-game homestand and a chance for you to really make some waves in the South Atlantic Conference.
Yeah, one of the things that, you know, we've kind of prided ourselves on is our ability to play and defend home court. I think that is super important. I tell people in the league, if you want to have a chance to win the league, you got to defend home court, and then you got to go on the road and steal some games. So I feel like this stretch right here is a pivotal point in our season. You get 3 games at home. You know, everybody's feeling good because you won 5 in a row. But at the end of the day, it's the South Atlantic Conference, and I tell people it's the best conference in the league. I mean, the best conference in the country, definitely on the East Coast. And no night is an easy night. You got to defend your home court, but understand that everybody that you play on any given night can beat you. And records sometimes are misleading. When you play in a league this tough, sometimes, you know, you beat up on each other. And so Mars Hill coming in that's very improved. They play extremely hard. They've got some bigs that'll compete, and then they also have some guards that push pace. They have guards that'll climb in you defensively. And we're going to have to give a great effort, because this is not like Mars Hill was last year.
Right.
Right now, if you don't play well, they'll beat you. And so we're going to have to be focused on that. And then getting into Coker, they have a lot of tall, long athletes. Hauser is playing some of the best ball in the conference. They always got Shea Jackson, who's a volume scorer. And then they've got some guards that are scrappy as well. So this week is going to be a challenging week for us. Michaela Hash is an assistant over at Coker, and she knows everything that we do from front to back. I mean, she knows play calls, she knows defense, she knows how everything works here. She probably came to about 10 of our practices last year and really hadn't changed anything. So, that they'll be ready for us. So very challenging week for us. And then the school up down the street is always a rivalry, and you're going to get a great atmosphere, a great game there. One of the top teams in the country, very skilled, very athletic, Elite 8 team from last year, returned basically their entire team, and I think they've gotten better. Yeah. So we look forward to that challenge. You don't run from anybody, you don't hide from anybody. I tell our kids all the time, I think we have the talent in the room to still get the job done. And when you defend the way that we're defending, you're going to have a chance in every game. I told them the difference between, this year's team and last year's team is that last year we were like, 175th in the country in defense. And right now you're top 25 defense, #1 in the league. So they've got to embrace that. They've got to understand that that's who we are. We're a tough, blue-collar, hard-nosed team. If you're a soft kid, then probably this ain't going to be the place for you. And if you're a soft kid, you're probably not going to play at all here. So we've got to embrace that and understand that, that's what we do. And we have to take that into every ball game and use that to be successful.
Pioneer team that is riding this 5-game winning streak jumped up to #7 in the D2 SID-A poll, which right now doesn't mean a whole lot as far as the postseason is concerned, but it gives us a pretty good gauge as to where everybody is in the league. When you look at the top 7, 5 of those are South Atlantic Conference teams, and a couple below the Pioneers also South Atlantic Conference teams as well. If you haven't seen the Pioneers yet, they average 84 points at home. We haven't played many home games either, but watch out, we're getting ready to do that. 6 of our next 8 will be played at Pioneer Arena with this 3-game homestand, a road trip to Wingate, and then Martin Luther King Day will host Newberry for a mid-afternoon day here at Pioneer Arena. We're back on the road for 1 against LMU, and then back at home for a couple of more to end out the month. So good opportunity for you to come see this Pioneer basketball team at home. And if you can't, you can tune in right here to the Pioneer Sports Network through TusculumPioneers.com and watch all of the excitement here at Pioneer Arena. For Pioneer coach Devan Carter, I'm Brian State, and it's a Pioneer basketball team that's on the rise. Can they sustain? Find out with us through the month of January. For all of us, I'm Brian State, and good night from the Pioneer Sports Network.